You've already seen what globalization is, what are the factors which are responsible for the growth of globalization and the positive aspects of globalization. But every coin has two sides. So, if there are positives, there ought to be negatives. So, let us see the negative aspects of globalization. In the negative aspect, first of all, we feel that most of the time there is no sustainable development. Whatever development is actually occurring in the country, is happening in the country, it is not in fact a sustainable development. And I am not going to explain you the meaning of sustainable development because I have already done this in the chapters before. Next, widening of income inequalities. That is, in the country itself, when the globalization process is going on, people tend to become very rich or very poor. This is another effect which is visible in the countries, that the gaping, that is the wider gap which is occurring between the haves and the haves not. Well, this goes further, and the income inequalities not only between the individuals but between the countries also starts happening. That is to say, certain countries get benefited more than the other countries, which makes these countries rich. That is in fact what? Creating inequalities between the country as far as the economy is concerned. So, the economic disparity keeps on increasing between the individuals and between the countries, and thanks to globalization. Next is loss of autonomy. That is, we say that an independent country has all the right to decide about its internal and external policies. But when globalization sets in, what happens? We have to follow the norms of the globe as such, of the world as such. So, whatever the laws are in the terms of import and export as standardized by the world on whole have to be accepted. So, there is a threat, or rather we feel that there is a loss of autonomy in the country. Next is the underdeveloped countries start becoming dependent on the developed countries, which is a very bad sign. What happens? Supposing, for example, this marker, an underdeveloped country does not have the capability of producing one, but it is easily available to it because of globalization. So, when it is easily available to you, you do not make the efforts of actually getting this made in your country, which makes you dependent and gives a setback, and there is a slow in your economy. So, it is almost kind spoon feeding to the underdeveloped countries, giving them a relaxed atmosphere which is not required for the growth of the economy. Well, when we talk about globalization in India, then there are few units, there are few companies which have become from a domestic unit to an international or a multinational company themselves. When we talk of Tata Motors in India, it has shaped into a MNC, that is in automobiles. When we talk of Ranbaxy in medicine, that is again turning into a multinational company. So, the country sometimes gets benefited because your local unit, your local company takes up the shape of a MNC due to globalization, and this is visible in the Indian market too. Well, as I said, positive has to be negative also. Negative is that the small companies in India, whether they were the oil producing units or they were doing some small production, have got badly hit because of the inflow of foreign goods in the country. There is so much of competition, and since they are manufacturing at that big level, their quantity is so much that they are able to give it at a price which is cheaper than what these people were providing us with. Therefore, the competition is so hard, they have been hit so hard that they have been forced to shut down their units. Well, sometimes when the competition becomes tough and when you see that the other company is providing the same commodity at a lesser price, what do? You try to cut cost, and especially the labor cost. That is, wherever earlier 20 people were required, they force upon the 10 laborers to complete that work, which means unemployment on the increase. So, that is about globalization. Further, I talk about the other aspects of globalization in the next clipping.